My name is Nova Calder, 28, coastal ecologist, and a certified addict of tide charts and gas station coffee. It's 5 years from now on North Carolina's ragged edge, where the marsh breathes like a sleeping animal and the sky is always the color of something about to happen. I work in a lab that smells like ethanol, sea mud, and printer toner. We model wetlands, how they flood, filter, and fight the worst in us. We show the way water remembers, even when people pretend to forget. I learned that from Wren Holloway. Wren is mid-50s, sharp as oyster shell, a field legend who can read a salt marsh by touch. She taught me how to slide a core sampler into peat and feel the centuries. She taught me how to name plants in Latin and storms by the look in the clouds. She's the kind of scientist who laughs only when the data does something interesting. She is also the reason I chose this lab, and that's the same lab that broke her heart. The week it happened, the river ran high. King tides were gnawing at the edges of the marsh, and the mosquitoes were mean as debt collectors. Wren had spent 18 months building a model that could predict how a new luxury development, Clearwater Point, would choke the wetlands like a slow tourniquet. Her results weren't just red flags, they were sirens. We all knew Clearwater Point. Billboards showed a watercolor paradise, raised boardwalks, artisanal bait shops, people drinking white wine on porches designed to survive hurricanes through sheer coastal chic. The developer's name was Lane Barrett, a man with perfect hair and a smile like a rented yacht. He promised improved access to nature, which is developer for we found a way around the rules. Wren's model said the project would bottle up tidal flow, starve the marsh of sediment, and make the whole coastline more vulnerable in the next 10-year storm. Her maps bled crimson where the hydrology pinched. The numbers weren't ambiguous. They were an indictment. Our lab director, Dr. Peter Keene, called a pre-release review. He was my mentor. He'd written my recommendation letters, pushed me to present at conferences, told me I had a gift for translating chaos into charts. Keene always smelled faintly of cedar and used words like stewardship and truth-telling in grant meetings. He was the face you sent into rooms where funding got decided. He closed his office door behind the three of us, me, Wren, and him, and swiveled his monitor so we could see. "I've harmonized the outputs," he said. Harmonized. On the screen, Wren's hottest zones were suddenly soft pinks and healthy greens. The sediment deficit had been recalibrated. The projected salinity spikes had a new confidence interval that looked like a shrug. It wasn't a model anymore. It was a lullaby. Wren's jaw tightened. "Those aren't my parameters." Keene steepled his fingers. "We must respect uncertainty." I added a post-storm recovery modifier and incorporated the developer's mitigation plan. Adaptive culverts can reduce. "You injected their marketing into my math," Wren said. He smiled without teeth. "That's not fair." I watched Wren's hands. They're rock steady in the field. Now they shook. The tremor of someone trying to control a fault line under her ribcage. She clicked through layers on the screen like an ER nurse unwrapping bad news. "Peter," she said quietly, like she was addressing the ghost of someone still alive. "You changed the forcing data." "I updated it," he said. "Our job isn't to sabotage economic hope." "Our job," Wren said, "is to keep 9,000 acres of nursery marsh from dying for a brochure." Keene glanced at me. "Nova, you're a communicator. Help me here. We can't walk into a regulatory hearing with doom sirens when there are proactive partnerships on the table." I had words, but they dissolved in my mouth like salt. I stared at the map, the one I'd spent nights nursing coffee over, the one that had kept me company when the lab was dark and the sea hissed outside. The shapes were right. The story was wrong. "Let's slow down," I said. "Let's cross-validate with field sensors before we alter a release." Keene gave me a patient father look. "We don't have time." The county needs to see balanced science. We are balancing, not burying. Wren tapped the legend. You added a developer confidence layer. Where did those figures come from? A technical brief, he said smoothly. Peer-reviewed by Barrett's consultants. Wren's laugh was a sound I'd never heard from her. A cut. Peter. He met her eyes and didn't blink. I'm asking for your trust. Sign off, and we control the narrative. Refuse, and the board will bring in someone who will. Silence sat down with us. I thought of Wren at dawn last winter, hip deep in cold water, teaching me to rescue a stuck logger without snapping the cable. The Marsh, she'd said, keeps receipts. Wren stood. I won't be a co-author on a lie. Keene shrugged. Then you'll be absent from the publication. That's your choice. Later that afternoon, Wren didn't come back to the lab. Her office light stayed dark, her favorite field hat hung on the hook, angry and alone. And by morning, the harmonized report had an executive summary with my name listed as Data Visualization Lead. I stared at the PDF on the shared drive. My cursor hovered over my own name like it didn't recognize me. I called Wren. No answer. I called again. Straight to voicemail. When I walked into Keene's office, he was packing a leather portfolio. Take my name off, I said. He didn't look up. You joined the team to make our work legible. You did that. Your name stays. You're misrepresenting the model. We refined it. You're misrepresenting me. He set the portfolio down and folded his hands. Nova, a lot of people depend on this lab. Grants, salaries, students. If we get labeled as anti-development ideologues, we lose influence and access. Then who protects the Marsh? I felt anger rise, hot and clean. You protect the Marsh by telling the truth. He smiled that patient father smile again. You're talented. Don't burn your career on a nuance battle. Are you being paid? That broke his script. What? Are you taking money from Barrett? He laughed, offended, too loud. That's slander. I didn't have proof. Just the smell of cedar and a new watch on his wrist and a tone in his emails like someone who'd already promised something. He lowered his voice. If you want to be useful, help me sell the mitigation narrative. Do a video for the county commissioners. Clean, friendly graphics. People like your voice. I walked out before I said something I wouldn't be allowed to take back. Outside, the air felt like wet wool. A gull screeched at nothing. I found my reflection in the lab window and hated how tired I looked. I went to Wren's house on Harbor Road. Her yard was a battle of native grasses and wind toys. The porch light was on. I knocked, then knocked again. The street smelled like pine and tide. When she finally opened the door, there was salt crusted on her cheeks. Don't, she said. Wren. He signed my name to a draft. The words hit me like a wave. What? I opened it on my phone and my name was there under analysis lead, like he forged me out of pixels. I told him to take it off, and he said the board insisted on legacy continuity. I sent 3 emails. Then my access was restricted. I felt something tear in my chest. We fight it. We go to the board, the journal, the county. Wren shook her head. They'll call it a technical disagreement. They'll stall until Clearwater breaks ground. She looked at me then. Really looked. Please, Nova. Don't let him use you. I won't, I said, and meant it in the way you mean things you can taste in your teeth. Back at the lab, I waited until late. Most people had gone home. The glow of a single desk lamp turned the hallway into a tunnel. I cracked the door to records. Our server room hums like a hive. I sat at a terminal and pulled the file history. Keene had marked the model folder frozen. But like most men who believe in their own untouchability, he was lazy with permissions. I dug. Layer by layer, commit by commit, I found the moment the math bent. He had uploaded a spreadsheet with a cheerful name, site_partner_inputs, and inside were columns that rewrote reality. Adaptive culvert efficiency, 90%. Sediment load, plus 35%. Community resilience uplift, qual, high. A story stitched out of air. Then I saw another folder I hadn't noticed, buried in admin/conferences/FY-5. Honoraria. I clicked. There it was. A PDF of a speaker agreement with the Barrett Foundation logo and a signature that made my stomach flip. Peter J. Keene. Amount, $45,000 for a keynote and strategic consultation. A wire transfer confirmation. 2 calendar invites to donor dinner, Clearwater Partners, at a restaurant where the napkins look like they cost $60 each. I dragged copies to a drive. I backed up the original model. I made sure the timestamp showed the truth. My heart was doing its own little king tide, flooding and receding in the bones of my chest. The hallway outside creaked. I froze. For a second, I told myself it was the building, the moisture. Then a shadow moved across the frosted glass. I stuffed the drive into my pocket and shut down the terminal. The hum of the server felt too loud, like it would point at me. I stepped into the hall. Keene stood at the end of it, tie loose, eyes calm in a way that wasn't. "Working late?" he said. "Trying to," I managed. He glanced at the records door behind me, then back to my face. "I need that drive, Nova." My pulse snagged. "What drive?" He smiled, small and terrible. "The one you just pocketed." In my jeans, the metal burned like a sun. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number blinked on the screen I'd forgotten was face up in my hand. "Delete what you copied. Cameras saw you. 10 minutes. I looked up, and Keene was already walking toward me. My heart pounded like surf against a bulkhead. Keene's shoes clicked on the linoleum as he walked toward me, slow, deliberate. I could feel the thumb drive in my pocket like it weighed 10 pounds. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, trying to sound bored, trying to sound like my lungs weren't tying themselves into knots. He smirked, the kind of smirk that says I already won. "Nova, you're smart. Don't do something reckless. You have a future. Don't throw it away on a misunderstanding." I forced a laugh. "Then you've got nothing to worry about." We stood in the hallway, 2 silhouettes under buzzing fluorescence. Then I did the only thing my body would let me. I walked past him. Shoulders square, steps fast but not panicked. Every nerve screamed at me not to run. "Good night, Dr. Keene," I said, and I didn't look back. The moment I hit the night air, I let myself breathe. My car smelled like old coffee and salt air, and I peeled out of the parking lot before my headlights finished warming up. Wren's house was only 10 minutes away, but every stoplight felt like an ambush. I kept checking my mirrors, half expecting Keene's silver sedan to appear. When I pulled up to her driveway, she was on the porch with a mug of tea. The lines on her face looked like they'd been carved by tidewater. "You shouldn't be here," she said before I even got out. "I found it," I whispered. My hands shook as I held up the drive. Proof. Payments from Barrett. Edits to the model. He's bought. Her eyes widened, but instead of triumph, I saw something else. Fear. "Inside," she said. Wren's kitchen was cluttered with field gear. Sample jars, raincoats, stacks of tide charts scribbled with notes. The kettle whistled faintly. Ignored. She plugged in an old laptop that looked like it belonged in a museum and copied the files over. She scrolled, jaw tight. "This is it," I said. "We can go to the board, the county, even the state regulators. They can't ignore this." But Wren shook her head. "You don't get it. They'll circle the wagons. Keene has donors, politicians, half the Chamber of Commerce eating out of his hand. You'll be labeled a disgruntled grad student with a grudge. They'll bury you before they bury him." Her words cut deeper than I wanted to admit. So what? Do nothing. No. Her eyes burned. We go public. But not like this. What do you mean? She leaned back, mug between her palms. We need a story they can't sanitize. Numbers are easy to drown, people aren't. Her plan was wild, reckless, beautiful. A public science fair. Not posters in a sterile conference hall, but the marsh itself. Open air. Open to everyone. Bring the data into the sunlight. Invite journalists, fishermen, students, moms with strollers. Let them see the models, the cores, the living evidence. If the regulators wanted to play politics, they'd have to do it in front of cameras and citizens who had just watched a crab suffocate in a tank of Clearwater's future water. It was audacious. It was dangerous. It was the kind of thing that could end a career or save a coast. I nodded. I'm in. The next week was a blur. We called in favors from teachers who loved Wren. We borrowed projectors from the high school, tanks from the Marine Center, folding tables from the fire department. Every night, I coded visualizations that showed the wetlands breathing like lungs until Keen's edits strangled them. Wren prepped field samples that would rot if anyone looked away too long, but every step, I felt eyes on me. Emails bounced back mysteriously. My university login was flagged for irregular activity. A black SUV idled too long at the corner near my apartment. Then came the message. A plain envelope slid under my door one night. Inside, a single photo of me leaving the lab, thumb drive in hand, timestamp glowing at the bottom. On the back, one line written in neat block letters. Delete it, or you'll wish you had. My stomach dropped. I took the photo to Wren. She studied it, face unreadable. They know, I said, my voice cracking. Keen knows I have copies. She set the photo down. Good. That means he's scared. Scared? I almost laughed. He has money, power, connections. All I have is... I gestured to the photo. A target on my back. Her gaze softened. And the truth, Nova, that's worth more than all his dinners with developers. We chose the date, 3 weeks from then, just before the county commissioner's final hearing on Clearwater Point. Every day felt like walking a tightrope. At the lab, Keen pretended nothing was wrong, though his eyes lingered too long on me during meetings. He was charming, as always, to everyone else, slapping backs, joking about hurricanes, handing out new branded rain jackets with the lab logo. I wore mine only once. It felt poisoned. One night, while we were mapping logistics for the fair, Wren paused. You need to be ready, she said. If this blows up, you won't just lose your job. They'll blacklist you from research, from grants, from everything. Are you sure? I thought about the marsh at sunrise, the smell of Spartina grass, the fish nurseries that had raised more generations than anyone could count. I'd rather be blacklisted than complicit. She smiled then, for the first time in weeks. Good. Because once we start, there's no going back. The night before the fair, I barely slept. My apartment was too quiet, too heavy. At 2 a.m., I gave up, walked down to the shoreline. The moon hung low, silvering the water. That's when I saw it. A fire. Small, flickering, wrong. I ran toward the smell, and my chest seized when I saw where it was coming from. Wren's house. Her porch was engulfed, flames clawing up the siding. Neighbors shouted, sirens wailed, and in the chaos I screamed her name. Wren! Smoke poured out, black against the stars. The fire roared like it wanted the whole block. Neighbors dragged hoses, spraying useless arcs at the flames. Sirens wailed closer, too slow, too far. I sprinted toward the porch until someone grabbed my arm. You can't go in there, a man shouted. My friend is inside. I ripped free, coughing as smoke clawed down my throat. The heat stung my skin like wasps. "Ren!" I screamed. For 1 second I thought I'd hear nothing back. Then, through the roar, her voice. Weak. Inside. I didn't think. I ran. The kitchen was an inferno. Flames chewed the walls, glass cracked and fell like shrapnel. I ducked low, smoke biting my eyes. "Ren! In here." I followed the sound, stumbling into the hallway where the air was thinner. She was on the floor, coughing, one leg twisted under her. A beam had fallen across her shin. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Nova! No, you have to." "Shut up," I rasped, adrenaline turning me into a machine. I braced, shoved the beam. It groaned, rolled, freed her leg. She screamed, but she was free. I hauled her up, slung her arm over my shoulders. The hallway collapsed behind us just as we staggered out the door into night air that tasted like knives but didn't kill. Neighbors clapped. Someone wrapped a blanket around Ren. Firefighters took over, foam spraying, boots pounding. We sat on the curb, shaking, coughing, alive. Her house, her life, was going up in flames. She grabbed my wrist, her nails digging into my skin. Her voice was raw but steady. "That wasn't an accident." I nodded. My chest ached with smoke and certainty. "Keen." The next day, investigators muttered about faulty wiring. Neighbors whispered arson. But there was no doubt in my gut. Someone wanted Ren out of the fight. Her leg was bruised but not broken. She refused the hospital after x-rays. "We don't have time," she said, sitting in a borrowed chair in a borrowed living room. "They tried to burn me down. That means the fair matters more than ever." I stared at her, anger boiling up like tidewater at flood. "We can't just keep reacting. We need to strike first." "How?" "Expose him, not just his bribes, but who he really is. Strip the polish off." Ren tilted her head. "You sound like you've been planning revenge your whole life." "Maybe I just never had a reason until now." The following week became a war room. We recruited allies, quietly. A high school science teacher who still believed in Ren. A fisherman whose crab traps were already failing near Clearwater's drainage. A student journalist hungry for a scoop bigger than cafeteria drama. We met at odd hours in borrowed spaces, huddled over laptops and field gear. Ren's leg healed slowly, but her voice sharpened with every day. Our plan grew teeth. Not just charts, not just speeches, but living exhibits. Tanks filled with real marsh water, one filtered through Keen's parameters, the other through reality. One tank stayed clear, the other turned brackish, fish gasping at the surface. We'd show the truth like theater. Let people feel it. And then, we'd show the documents, the speaker fee, the wire transfers, Keen's signature. Live, projected, undeniable. But it wasn't enough. We needed a hook. Something that would force cameras to stay on us when Keen tried to spin. That's when the student journalist Maya leaned across the table. "What if you make it personal?" "Personal? By?" I asked. "Yeah. People don't care about salinity levels. They care about betrayal. Make the story about how he silenced Ren, how he turned on both of you. Put your faces next to the data." Ren frowned. "Scientists don't center themselves." "Then maybe it's time," Maya said. Her words sank in like anchors. She was right. If we stayed behind the curtain, Keen would paint us as cranks. But if we stood in the light, raw, angry, human, maybe people would listen. The night before the fair, we rehearsed in a drafty gym. Projectors flickered, tanks bubbled. Ren practiced her lines leaning on a cane. I paced, nerves coiled tight. What if no one shows? What if Keen sends cops? What if... Nova. Ren's voice cut through. "You've been braver than me since this started. Don't lose it now." "Braver?" I almost laughed. I felt like a fraud, but the drive in my pocket reminded me. The proof was real, and tomorrow, everyone would see it. That night, lying awake on a borrowed couch, I heard the creak of the door. My body froze. A shadow loomed in the dark. I reached for my phone, thumb hovering over 911. Then the shadow stepped into a sliver of moonlight. Not Keen. Maya. Her face pale, shaking. She whispered, "Nova, someone followed me home." Maya's whisper cut through the dark. Her eyes were wide, wild. "I swear, Nova, someone was trailing me. Black SUV, tinted windows. I ducked into a gas station and they parked outside until I left. Then they followed me again." I sat up, pulse racing. "Where are they now?" "I don't know." Her voice cracked. "I ran here." Wren shuffled into the room, leaning on her cane, hair mussed, still smelling faintly of smoke from the fire. "What's going on?" "Maya was followed," I said. "SUV, same kind I've seen near my place." Wren's jaw tightened. "Barrett's people." Maya hugged herself, shivering. "If they're willing to torch your house, what are they willing to do to me?" Silence hung heavy. The truth was brutal. She wasn't wrong. "Then we don't let you walk home alone again," I said finally. "You stick with us. If they want to scare us off, fine. But they're not splitting us up." Wren nodded slowly. "Strength in daylight, not shadows." The next morning, we drove to the fair site together, an open stretch of marsh edge where Spartina grass bowed under the wind. Volunteers hammered in tent stakes, kids ran with clipboards, and tanks of brackish water sloshed under tarps. It looked chaotic, underfunded, fragile, and yet, it buzzed with energy. By noon, people started arriving. Fishermen with weathered faces, retired teachers, college students with cameras, local parents pushing strollers, even a couple of county commissioners, hiding behind sunglasses. I took the mic first. My voice shook. "Hi, my name is Nova Calder. I work in this marsh, and I want you to see what happens when people decide money is worth more than the coast that protects us." On the projector, my visualization bloomed, tidal maps pulsing like lungs. Clear lines of flow turned stagnant red as barriers rose. The audience leaned in, murmuring. Then we unveiled the tanks. Kids gasped, tugging on parents' hands. One tank shimmered clean, the other was cloudy, crabs flailing weakly at the surface. The difference wasn't abstract. It was alive. Wren stepped forward, voice hoarse but strong. "This isn't about models. It's about futures. Your kids' fishing holes, your storm buffers, your home insurance premiums. If the wetlands die, we all pay the bill." Applause erupted. For a moment, it felt unstoppable. Then a familiar voice sliced through the air. "Thank you, Dr. Holloway. Miss Calder." I froze. Keen. He walked onto the stage like he owned it, crisp suit, calm smile. Behind him, two men in Barrett Foundation polos wheeled in their own display. Glossy posters, a looping video of families kayaking under a banner that read, "Clearwater Point, living with nature." "Ladies and gentlemen," Keen said smoothly, taking our mic without asking. "I'm glad to see so many engaged citizens. But don't be misled by alarmist scenarios. The truth is, Clearwater Point will improve our wetlands." Boos scattered, but he plowed forward. "Our team has developed adaptive culverts, state-of-the-art filtration, and, thanks to generous investment, millions in funding for conservation education." He gestured to me like I was a prop. "Even Ms. Calder here has provided data visualization for our reports." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My name, my work, twisted into his shield. I felt heat crawl up my neck. "That's a lie," I snapped, snatching the mic back. Keen edited my models. He fabricated numbers to make this development look safe, and he's been paid to do it. The crowd buzzed. Phones lifted, cameras zoomed. Keen's smile never faltered. Strong words, Nova. Do you have proof? Yes, I did. The drive, the PDFs, the wire transfers. I pulled the laptop forward, hands trembling. I do. The projector flickered as I opened the folder. A hush fell over the Marsh as files loaded. Speaker agreement. Barrett logo. Keen's signature. I enlarged it. My chest swelled. This was it. But when the document opened on screen, blank. White. Empty. No. My voice cracked. I clicked another. Then another. All blank. Every file. Every shred of proof. Wiped. The crowd murmured, confused. Keen tilted his head with mock pity. Looks like Ms. Calder's accusations are unsupported. He turned back to the audience. Friends, don't let passion blind you to progress. Clearwater Point is the future of our community. Applause, scattered but real, rose from a pocket of supporters near the front. I stood there, gutted. My proof was gone. My credibility, hanging by a thread. Then my phone buzzed. A text. From an unknown number. Looking for these? Meet tonight. Alone attached. A screenshot of the files. The real ones. My stomach dropped. Someone had them. Someone I didn't trust. And they wanted me to walk into the dark to get them back. The fair ended in chaos. Keen shook hands, smiling for cameras, while I stood frozen with a dead laptop and a live nightmare. Wren squeezed my shoulder, her fingers digging in. Don't let him see you break, she whispered. But inside, I was already breaking. When the crowd finally dispersed, Maya jogged over. Nova, what happened? You had him. You had him. I showed her the text. She read it, eyes widening. This is a trap. Or it's our only shot. Wren hobbled closer, leaning hard on her cane. No, they torch houses, stalk students, wipe files. You don't walk into their game. My throat tightened. If I don't, Keen wins. He paints us as liars, and Clearwater gets rubber stamped. Wren shook her head. There'll be another way. But I knew there wouldn't. Not before the county hearing. Not before ground broke. The text was bait. And I was going to bite. That night I drove. Headlights carving tunnels through pine forest, windows cracked to keep my breath steady. The instructions were vague. An abandoned boatyard outside Beaufort. Midnight. Alone. Every mile felt heavier. I kept thinking about Wren on the porch. Flames behind her. About Maya's pale face when she said she was followed. About Keen's smirk as my proof vanished in front of 100 witnesses. At 11:57, I pulled into the boatyard. Rusting hulls loomed like skeletons. The tide slapped lazily against the pilings. A sodium lamp buzzed overhead, casting everything in sick orange light. My phone buzzed again. Straight ahead. I walked, boots crunching gravel. My heart drummed against my ribs. Then I saw him. Not Keen, not Barrett. A man in a hoodie, sitting on the tailgate of a pickup. Face hidden, hands folded. You've been busy, he said. His voice was low, calm. Too busy. Who are you? He chuckled. Call me a middleman. I don't work for Barrett. I don't work for Keen. I work for people who don't like how messy this is getting. I clenched my fists. You have my files. He nodded at the phone in his hand. Backed up. Safe. Every line, every dollar. But you're sloppy, Nova. They saw you copy it. They saw you leak it. Now it's compromised. My pulse skipped. Leak it? I didn't. He smirked. Didn't you? Files like these don't stay still. Journalists whisper. Watchdogs sniff. You think you're the only one who found them? Something in my gut twisted. Why call me here then? Because, he said, sliding off the tailgate. I like options. And right now, I'm offering you one. He handed me a flash drive. Black. Unmarked. Take this. Everything you need. Deliver it to the right ears and Keen's finished. I reached for it, but he pulled it back. With conditions. I froze. What conditions? You walk away. After you burn him, you burn yourself. No more Marsh. No more lab. You disappear. If you don't, this fire spreads, and it doesn't stop with you. The words landed like stones in my chest. Disappear? Give up the work? The Marsh? Everything I'd fought for? After everything Keen had already taken? I shook my head. No. I won't vanish so he can win by default. The man sighed, disappointed. You really are one of Wren's. He dropped the drive onto the gravel. Your choice. Just remember, people get hurt when lines aren't respected. Before I could answer, headlights flared. I flinched, blinded, then realized the truck was already pulling out, tires spitting gravel, taillights shrinking into the night. I was alone, with the flash drive, and a choice that felt like a knife. By the time I made it back to Wren's borrowed house, dawn was bleeding into the sky. She was waiting on the porch, eyes hollow with worry. Well? She asked. I held up the drive. We have it. Maya stumbled out behind her, hair messy, phone clutched in her hand. But at what cost? I told them everything. The man, the threat, the condition. Wren listened in silence, her hand gripping her cane like a weapon. Finally, she said, he's bluffing. You don't know that, Maya snapped. You didn't see him. No, Wren said, eyes sharp as glass. But I've seen power bluff before, and the only way to beat it is to call it out. She turned to me. Nova, you decide. Do we use what's on that drive? Or do we let fear write the ending? I stared at the small black rectangle in my palm. It felt heavier than the marsh, heavier than the whole damn coast. And I knew, whatever I chose next would decide everything. I didn't sleep. None of us did. The flash drive sat in the middle of Wren's kitchen table like a ticking bomb. Maya paced the room, muttering about digital forensics, chain of custody, whistleblower protections. Wren sat still, staring at the thing like she could bend it with her mind. Me? I just kept hearing the man's voice. You burn him. You burn yourself. By sunrise, I made my choice. We use it, I said. No more waiting. No more playing defense. Wren's lips tightened. She didn't argue. She just nodded. We spent the next day in overdrive. Maya pulled the files onto her laptop, scanning them like a surgeon checking for tumors. The data was intact. Wire transfers, emails, draft edits with Keen's fingerprints all over them. She cross-checked timestamps against public events, like his keynote speech for Barrett. The corruption lined up like constellations. This is airtight, Maya whispered. If we drop this, he's done. But Wren shook her head. Not if we drop it in the wrong place. Keen has friends in every office from here to Raleigh. If we hand this to the regulators, they'll bury it. If we hand it to a paper, they'll call it a smear campaign. Then where? I asked. She looked at me with a kind of fire I hadn't seen since before the blaze. We drop it where he can't control the room. At the county hearing. Tomorrow. The hearing was held in a sterile government building that smelled like coffee and floor wax. Developers in tailored suits filled the first rows, their smiles polished, their watches gleaming. Behind them sat fishermen in baseball caps, teachers in worn cardigans, mothers with kids balanced on their laps. We slid into the back, laptops and flash drives tucked like contraband under our coats. When Keen walked in, the room shifted. He carried himself like a man whose win was already signed. He shook hands, cracked jokes, patted shoulders. His smile lingered too long when his eyes found mine. The commissioners called the meeting to order. Barrett gave his presentation first, glossy videos, buzzwords about resilience, heritage, community legacy. He ended with a round of applause from his own supporters, neatly planted in the room. Then Keane stood. His slides were the same sanitized fantasy we'd seen before: harmonized wetlands, adaptive culverts, green zones glowing like salvation. His voice was smooth, persuasive, rehearsed. And then it was our turn. Wren leaned on her cane as she approached the microphone. Her voice shook at first, but steadied with every word. I spent 30 years studying this coast, and I've never seen a threat like this one, not from hurricanes, not from erosion, but from men who put profit above truth. She clicked the remote, and my visualization filled the projector. Tidal flows strangled, salinity spikes climbing, storm surges swallowing neighborhoods. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Then she handed the mic to me. My knees wobbled, but I forced myself forward. My name is Nova Calder. I was listed as the data visualization lead on Dr. Keane's report. But what you saw wasn't my work. It was his edits. He doctored the data. He took money to twist the truth. Gasps. Whispers. Keene's smile thinned, but he didn't flinch. Ms. Calder is mistaken, he said smoothly. Passionate, but mistaken. That's when Maya stood, holding up her phone. Not mistaken. Documented. She plugged the flash drive into the commissioner's laptop. The files filled the screen. Scanned contracts, payment confirmations, edited model parameters. Keene's signature glared back at the room in black ink. The crowd erupted. Phones shot up, snapping photos, recording video. Keene's mask cracked. For the first time, his voice trembled. This is taken out of context. No context changes $45,000 in undisclosed payments, Wren cut in. No context changes falsifying hydrology to favor developers. No context changes betrayal. The room buzzed with anger, disbelief, fury. One commissioner muttered to another, loud enough for us to hear, "This is a scandal." I felt something swell in my chest, triumph, vindication, relief. But then, the projector went black. The laptop screen glitched. Then it froze. Blue. And on the commissioner's monitor, a single message appeared. Unauthorized access detected. Files quarantined. The audience groaned in confusion. Maya slammed the keys. No, no, no. Someone's wiping it remotely. I looked at her screen. Folders were collapsing, one by one. Proof vanishing in real time. And when I turned, I saw him. At the back of the room. The man from the boatyard. Hoodie gone, but the smirk the same. He held up his phone, pressed a button. The files, the last copies, began to disappear. The room erupted in confusion. Commissioners shouted. People in the crowd pulled out their phones, recording, demanding answers. On the projector, folders blinked, disappeared, died. Maya's fingers flew over the keys. They're deleting everything. He's in the system. He's killing the drive. No. I shoved closer. Can you block him? I'm trying. Sweat dripped down her temple as she fought the wipe. Wren leaned on her cane, glaring at the commissioners. Don't you dare let this vanish. You've seen it. Photos, signatures, payments. But Keane stepped forward, his voice calm, authoritative. Ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what I warned you about. Manufactured files, foreign interference, a smear campaign meant to derail progress. And damn it, the crowd wavered. Some booed him, others nodded. His confidence was a drug. I turned, scanning the room until my eyes locked on him, the man from the boatyard. Now in a clean jacket, blending in like any other citizen. Except for the smirk, except for the phone in his hand. He caught my gaze and mouthed a word. Choice. The files were slipping away. Maya slammed the keyboard. I can freeze one, maybe two, before they're gone. Which ones? I demanded. She pointed at the list as folders blinked red and vanished. Only 2 could be saved. Dozens more, gone forever. My chest tightened. Every piece of evidence mattered, but only 2 would live. Wren gripped my arm. Think fast, Nova. The commissioners pounded the table, threatening to adjourn. Keen's eyes gleamed with victory. The man with the phone smirked, like he knew he already owned me. I had to choose. The wire transfer, I said. That shows the money. Maya's fingers darted, froze the file. 1 locked. 1 more, she shouted. I scanned the collapsing folders, panic burning in my throat. Then I saw it. Keen's edits to the hydrology model, his fingerprints in metadata, his parameters twisting the truth. That one, I barked. Maya slammed enter. The screen froze. 2 files safe. Everything else, gone. The projector blinked, then filled with 2 documents. A wire transfer for $45,000. Keen's name. Barrett Foundation. Clear as daylight. And a model log showing Keen's user ID, time-stamped edits, fabricated parameters. The crowd gasped, shouted. Some stood, fists in the air. Corruption! Fraud! Liar! Keen went pale. This is... But his voice cracked, his mask slipped. Wren stepped forward, cane tapping like a gavel. Not a smear. Not a campaign. The truth. Right there in his own handwriting, his own keystrokes. Commissioners whispered furiously, scribbling notes. Reporters crowded forward, cameras flashing, and for the first time, Keen looked small. But I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at the man with the phone. He was already leaving, slipping out the side door, unnoticed in the chaos, and something in me snapped. I bolted after him. Nova! Wren shouted. Wait! But I couldn't. Not now. Not when answers were walking away. The hallway was dim, empty. My boots echoed as I ran. At the far end, the man turned, saw me, smirked. He didn't run. He wanted me to follow. And I did. Out the side door, into humid night air thick with cicadas. The parking lot was nearly empty. He leaned against a car, calm, waiting. You made your choice, he said softly. Smart girl. My chest heaved. Who the hell are you? He tilted his head. The reason you still have a case. Without me, you had nothing. You tried to burn it all. I tried to clean it. You're playing checkers, Nova. This game's been chess for years. I stepped closer, fists clenched. Then tell me the rules. He smiled faintly. Rule 1. There's always a bigger player. Barrett, Keen, they're pawns. Useful, expendable. You don't want to see who's really moving the pieces. My stomach nodded. Then why help me? He shrugged. Because pawns still matter. And sometimes you let one take the queen. Before I could answer, headlights flared. A black SUV rolled into the lot. Slow, deliberate. The man stepped back into shadow. Time's up, Nova. Stay alive if you can. And then he was gone. The SUV doors opened. Figures stepped out. And I realized whoever was moving pieces had just moved me. The SUV doors slammed. 2 men stepped out. Suits, earpieces, the kind of bulk that meant either weights or weapons. Their eyes locked on me like I was already tagged game. Ms. Calder, one said, voice clipped, professional. You need to come with us. Adrenaline surged. Not happening. The second man moved closer, palms open. You're not safe out here. We can protect you. I barked a laugh. Yeah? Like you protected Wren's house? Their eyes flickered just for a second. Enough to tell me I'd hit something true. I backed toward the building. My pulse thundered in my ears. If you're here to protect me, you'd have badges. Names. Something more than a black SUV and vague threats. The first man's jaw flexed. We're not here to hurt you. But if you keep poking at things you don't understand, others will. And Keen? I shot back. What happens to him? The man didn't flinch. Keen already served his purpose. My skin went cold. They weren't here to save him. They weren't even here for Barrett. They were here because the game was bigger. And I'd just been shoved onto the board. A shout echoed behind me, Maya's voice. Nova. She burst out the door, phone up, recording. The men froze, their calm cracking for the first time. Smile for the camera, gentlemen, she said. You're live. I spun. Live? She nodded. Stream's running. 10,000 views and climbing. The men cursed under their breath, retreating toward the SUV. One muttered into his earpiece. Before they ducked inside, the first man pointed at me. You just made enemies you can't see. Think about that before you open your mouth again. The SUV peeled away, taillights fading into the night. Maya lowered her phone, breathing hard. Please tell me you're not about to chase that. I exhaled, shaking. No, not tonight. But inside, I wasn't so sure. Back inside, the hearing room was chaos. Reporters swarmed Wren, commissioners huddled, Keen had vanished. The two surviving files were already ricocheting across social media, screenshots multiplying faster than any deletion could stop. We did it, Wren whispered when I reached her. But her eyes, haunted, wary, said something else, because we both knew this wasn't over. Not with SUVs prowling, not with bigger players moving pieces we couldn't see. Still, for the first time in weeks, I felt a crack of light break through. Keen's downfall had begun, and people were watching. That night, we regrouped at Maya's apartment. Safer than Wren's borrowed space, smaller, walls lined with stacks of journalism textbooks and half-dead plants. Maya replayed her live stream, shaking her head. Comments are blowing up. Some think it's a conspiracy theory. Some think you're heroes. But either way, it's spreading. Good, Wren said flatly. Let the fire burn. I sat on the floor, thumb drive still heavy in my pocket. The man's warning replayed in my head. Pawns, queens, bigger players. If he was right, then Keen wasn't the top of this food chain. He was just the appetizer. I leaned back against the wall, eyes burning with exhaustion. If this is chess, I muttered, then who the hell is playing black? Maya glanced at me. What if it's not one side? What if it's both? Developers, politicians, donors, all moving pieces until the Marsh is gone. Wren's voice cut sharp. Then we flipped the board. The next morning, the storm hit. Headlines exploded. Lab director accused of corruption. Wetlands study tampered. County project under fire. Keen released a statement calling us disgruntled and misinformed. Barrett doubled down, promising jobs, progress, prosperity. But the tide had shifted. Protests were forming outside county offices. Fishermen organized boat parades in the inlet with banners that read, "Save our Marsh." It should have felt like victory. But when I checked my email, my stomach dropped. Hundreds of messages. Some were cheers, some were death threats. And one, buried in the flood, was different. A single line. Meet me at the pier. Midnight. Come alone, or the rest of the files burn. Attached was a screenshot. Not just the files we'd saved, but dozens more. Emails, contracts, even photos. The ones that had been wiped. The ones I thought were gone forever. I closed the laptop slowly. My hands shook. The man wasn't bluffing. He had them. And if I wanted them, I'd have to walk into the maw again. Nova? Wren asked, watching me. I looked up, my chest tight with fear and resolve. They're not done with us, I said. Not by a long shot. The pier creaked under my boots as I stepped onto it. Midnight, wind sharp off the water, moonlight slicing the waves into shards of silver. I shouldn't have come alone. Wren would have killed me if she knew. Maya, too. But the message had been clear: alone or nothing. And I needed those files. Every board groaned like a warning. The marsh grass whispered, restless. I walked to the end of the pier, where the world felt like it dropped off into black water. He was already there, the man from the boatyard. Hoodie again, hands in his pockets, expression calm, like this was just another Tuesday night. "You came," he said. "You have the files," I answered. He smiled faintly. "I have all the files. The ones Keene thought he buried, the ones Barrett never meant anyone to see. Emails, contracts, names." He pulled out a small waterproof case, tapped it against his palm. "It's all here." I reached for it. He pulled it back. "Not so fast. First, I need something from you." My chest tightened. "What?" "Silence." I frowned. "Silence?" "You drop the story after this. No more digging. No more rallies. You hand this to the right people. Let Keene fall. Let Barrett shuffle his money. But you stop pulling at threads. Because the more you pull..." He leaned closer. "The uglier it gets." I stared at him, fury rising. "You think I went through fire, literally, for silence? You think I watched my mentor's name forged, watched a coast sold off, just to stop here?" His eyes hardened. "I think you don't know what comes next. And if you keep going, you'll find out." He set the case on the railing, right where the wood met air, a few inches too far. A place where one wrong move would send it into the ocean. "Take it," he said, "but know the cost." The waves slapped below. My hand hovered, and then headlights flared on shore. I spun. A second SUV rolled onto the pier approach, tires crunching gravel. Doors slammed. Figures spilled out. 3, 4, maybe 5. Silhouettes backlit, moving fast. The man swore under his breath. "They weren't supposed to..." "Who are they?" I snapped. "Not mine," he hissed. "Run." He shoved the case toward me. Instinct took over. I grabbed it, stuffed it under my jacket. Then I ran. The pier became chaos. Boots thundered behind me. Shouts. "Stop her!" "Get it!" The man swung at one of them, dropping him into the railing with a sickening thud. Another lunged at me. I ducked, his hand grazing my arm, and I bolted faster. The case cut into my ribs with every step. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but adrenaline drowned everything. Halfway down the pier, I looked back. The man was fighting two at once. Fast, brutal. But more were coming. "Go, Nova!" he roared. I didn't think. I sprinted the last stretch, dove into the driver's seat of my car, and peeled out before the SUV blocked me. Gravel sprayed like fireworks. My hands shook on the wheel, heart hammering, headlights slicing through darkness. I didn't stop until I was 20 miles away, parked under a flickering street lamp in a gas station lot, chest heaving. Only then did I unzip my jacket and pull out the case. Inside, dry, intact, was a drive, labeled only with one word: Deepwater. The name chilled me, because it wasn't Clearwater Point. It wasn't the county. It was something else. Something bigger. When I got back to Maya's apartment, she and Ren were waiting, faces pale with worry. I dropped the case on the table. "This isn't just Barrett," I said. "It's deeper. And if we open this, we're in a war we don't understand." Ren leaned forward, eyes burning. "Then we open it." The drive sat between us like a live wire. Black plastic, no markings except that single word: Deepwater. Maya plugged it into her laptop, fingers trembling. "If this fries my system, I'm blaming both of you." The screen flickered, then bloomed with folders. Dozens, hundreds, emails, contracts, meeting minutes. Some dated years back. Not just Barrett, not just Keene. Names I didn't recognize. Corporations, lobbying firms, even federal agencies. At the top, One document glowed like it wanted to be seen. Deepwater_masterplan.pdf. Maya clicked. The screen filled with maps. Coastal zones, color-coded in neat lines. Wetlands, marshes, estuaries, marked in red. Notes in the margins, non-critical. Available for development. Resilience offsets negotiable. I scanned, my stomach dropping. These weren't just plans for Clearwater Point. This was a blueprint to carve up the entire coastline. Wren whispered, "They've already written the obituary for half the marsh." Page after page showed construction timelines, projected profits, donor lists, developers, politicians, university board members, even NGOs, bought and paid for. And there, buried in the appendices, was Keene's name, not once, dozens of times, consultant, speaker, trusted scientific liaison. His sellout wasn't an accident, he was a cog in a machine. "This is massive," Maya breathed. "If we leak this, it's not just a scandal. It's a war." Wren leaned on her cane, face pale but steady. "This is why they burned me. This is why they chased you. They weren't afraid of Clearwater. They were afraid you'd stumble onto this." I rubbed my temples, mind racing. If we release it all at once, they'll bury it. Call it fake, call us radicals. But if we drip it, bit by bit, force them to deny, until the walls collapse. Maya's eyes lit up. Controlled leaks. Each file a bullet. Each one corroborated before the next drops. "But it'll put targets on our backs," I said quietly. Wren gave a humorless laugh. "We already have targets. Question is, do we aim back?" We spent the night planning, mapping files against allies, journalists, watchdog groups, fishermen's unions. Each release needed timing, proof, a human face. By dawn, exhaustion weighed on us, but adrenaline kept us upright. That's when Maya froze, staring at her screen. "Guys, someone's in the drive." "What?" "The files, they're syncing. Someone's trying to wipe it remotely." My stomach dropped. "Again?" "No. Worse. This isn't deletion, it's a trace. They're backtracking the connection." Wren's voice sharpened. "Unplug it." Maya yanked the drive free. The screen went black. We sat in silence, the air heavy. Whoever Deepwater was, they knew. "They're coming," I whispered. The first knock came an hour later. Sharp. Hard. Too polite to be neighbors, too cold to be friendly. Maya's face went white. "Nova." I pressed a finger to my lips. We didn't breathe. Another knock. Louder. Then a voice. Smooth. Male. "Miss Calder. Dr. Holloway. We'd like a word." Wren's knuckles whitened on her cane. "They found us." The knock turned into pounding. The voice lost its courtesy. "Open the door." Now Maya's laptop pinged with a notification. An unknown number. A single message. "They won't stop. Choose your move." I grabbed the drive, shoving it into my pocket. My pulse hammered so loud I could barely hear. Through the blinds, shadows shifted. Men in dark suits. Not cops. Not regulators. Something worse. The door rattled under another blow. We had seconds. Maybe less. I turned to Wren and Maya. My voice was steady even though my body shook. "We either hand it over, or we run."